Megan, Jessica, welcome to the show. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, super happy to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have y'all. And I guess just to give some quick history for everybody listening, some modern people leader history. Uh, Part of the reason why we even had the idea to start this podcast was because of the work that the Refine Labs team is doing. Um, I've been a big follower of all of the content that their teams been putting out for, I guess, like what, 2 years now.
Mhm.
And yeah, for everyone listening, Refine Labs is a B2B marketing agency that's really changing the way that marketers think about B2B marketing. And that really inspired me to want to start my own podcast and to have a podcast where we talk to the smartest people in the people space and find out how they're pioneering a new way of working. Um, so yeah, just wanted to get that out there. And on top of leading a marketing revolution, y'all are doing some really interesting work with talent attraction, onboarding, your employer branding. So really excited to dig in on some of this stuff with you guys here today.
Absolutely. I would say that the vision and the mission of the company is really twofold. One is um, changing the way all B2B companies measure and execute marketing, but even more importantly, building a talent destination to attract and retain the best talent. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So the way that we like to start these shows is with good news stories. So we all go around, share a personal or work related story from the past week or two. And yeah, I guess, do one of y'all want to kick it off? Or do y'all want me
Yeah,
to kick it
I'll kick
off?
it off.
Okay, go
I
for it.
well, first of all, I love starting anything with anything positive. All of my team meetings, we start with a gratitude moment, so this is like right up my alley. But thinking about something that is positive. Within the last couple of weeks, I celebrated my 2 years of sobriety, and that is something that is really important to me. So that is my definitely my good news of the day, of the whole month, really, but of the day.
I'm bummed that Steven's not here right now because I feel like y'all would really bond over that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so I can go next. I never really give work related good news stories, but
Mhm.
yesterday was the last day of our fiscal quarter at Humu,
Mhm.
and last week we had like the biggest, you know, week in the marketing team that we've had ever in terms of like new website visitors, demo requests. I mean, I could go on, but it was a really exciting week for us. We announced our Series C, and
That's awesome.
yeah, it just feels good after um, hard month of work in January to see all of that pay off.
I
Yeah,
love that. Congratulations.
congratulations.
All right, I have one actually from yesterday. So we recently at Refine Labs have been assembling some really amazing C-level leaders to round out our leadership team for this year. We two of them have just started at the company, and we had a leadership team meeting yesterday. We open with kind of a check-in called red, yellow, green. Red, you're not doing so good. Green, you're great. Yellow, you're in between. And the point is to be honest about how you're doing so we can all have a great conversation, but kind of have a little empathy for wherever everyone is at that day. And one of our new leaders on day one expressed that she was feeling a bit yellow. And for me to create a team environment where people feel comfortable on day one to be vulnerable is it just warmed my heart. And that's like the goal of what we're trying to do. And so I'm fascinated with team building and kind of creating psychological safety. And I think that that's really crucial for any high performing team. And those little moments, I think, kind of
Yeah.
crystallize that, oh, it's working. People feel that way. And that makes me feel good.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So actually years ago when I was working on Steven's team, we used to do this thing at the end of every weekly meeting. So we would do it for all of our recurring meetings where at the end of the meeting we would rate the meeting. And I think it was like rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10 and then like in a few words explain why you feel that way. And I feel like it always provided like a forum for everybody to really share how they feel. So like maybe they could say five, like, yeah, like, I'm just not really feeling that high that high energy today.
Yeah.
Have some pretty low energy. So I feel like the meeting could have been better if had I had better energy.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think creating that psychological safety is so important. Cool. Well, I know we briefly touched on what Refine Labs does, but can one of you give us like, the at a party response that you would give to someone if they asked you what your company does?
Definitely. We are the best marketing firm in the world, and we are going to
Love
change
it.
the way B2B companies measure and execute marketing. We also have a future vision for the company that is so much more than the consulting services that we're providing to the team. We really believe because of our ability to work with so many companies, we're really gaining a lot of really interesting insights. And our approach and our firm is unique in that we really combine research, strategy, and execution in a way that doesn't really exist. So not only are we going to have a really positive impact on all B2B companies and their marketing initiatives. We're creating our own category, and we're doing all of that while leading by example and showing the world that you can build a profitable, sustainable, like highly successful company by putting your people first.
Yeah. I also love how the Refine Labs team shares their work. I feel like I can get on LinkedIn at almost any time of the day and I see somebody dropping knowledge. And I think it just adds to, uh, I'm trying to think of like the perfect word to describe Refine Labs, but it's like different in like
Yeah.
how you do everything, which I
I would
think
say
is,
transparency. Like if
yeah,
I had to
transparent.
say one
That's
word,
true.
I think our word, and it comes up in our employee engagement surveys, is transparency. We put it all out there. There's nothing to hide. Even from like a people perspective, like you can see salaries, you can see job mapping. Like why not? Like just put it all out there. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I think from a people operations, quote unquote, like HR, it's very like secretive and let's like make sure things are gated. And that is just not our style.
Love it. Yeah. So I think that's a good segue into my next question. What is it like to be a Refined Labs employee, and why should we all be jealous that you guys get to work there?
I want to know what Jessica has to say to this.
Well, first, we know that you are all jealous. But second of all, I think from my own lived experience, I know that this is a place where you can truly show up. Whatever that means to you, you can be whoever you want to be and show up here. And you will be welcomed, first of all. And two, we will accommodate you. So I think that has been my experience, and that's the experience that I want to create for other employees. So as the VP of people, it's very important to me, and I talk about it all the time, that we are transparent, that we focus on DE&I, whatever that means to a particular person, and that people feel like they can do their best work here, whatever that means in their role. So if that means you're a coordinator, you're doing coordinator work, and you eventually want to be a manager, how do we get you there? Or if you're already at a VP level, how are you growing and developing your team? So I think when I truly think about our team, like everyone is very supportive. And you talked about our activity on LinkedIn. It's funny that you say that because when I interviewed for this role, I went on LinkedIn and thought, like, is this a job requirement? Like everyone's on here. Like, am I gonna have to do this? Even though I'm very active on LinkedIn, but I literally was sitting there and going through everyone's profile and looking at what they were saying and thinking, wow, like one, from an HR perspective, they are letting people say what they really want to say, which, a
Yeah.
lot of companies do not tolerate that. And two, I thought, okay, well, things must be good because if not, they would say it. They seem so honest. They're just putting it all out there. So, yeah.
I love that. I'll add a couple points. I think when I look back at some of the best chapters in my career, the best experiences that I had when I was really at a place and surrounded by incredible talent across all teams, and being around other A players and highly talented and motivated people, like motivate you to want to do better and to
Yeah.
try things and take risks. And we have assembled like the most talent, not only like the most talented marketers, but the most talented, people professionals, marketing professionals just for our internal marketing, designers and copywriters on our creative team. And I think one of the things that people love the most is everyone at our company. And I think like that has such a huge impact. And it's why we put a lot of effort into the interview experience. We're very thoughtful on how we design it to really make sure that it's going to be the right fit. It's not about convincing people to work here, right? It's about really evaluating what they want as well and what they're looking for and determining it if it's a match. And so I think like the caliber of talent and like the quality of the team that we have here is I think something very unique and distinctive to us.
Yeah. It's like a safe haven for B2B marketers. They, they know that they can go work at Refined Labs and work with smart, caring people and be able to be themselves. So I think it's pretty cool what y'all are creating there.
I like that. We need to put that on the website. This is
I know. I get a lot of LinkedIn DMs. And they're like, "You're taking all the good marketers." I'm like, I know.
Sorry.
Like, I'm not sorry, not sorry.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
the point. I'm doing it on purpose.
Yeah, and I going back to why that's even the case, it feels like it's because you have this really strong culture, and I know that y'all recently created a culture playbook and put it out there for the world to see. I think it's on your featured post on LinkedIn, Megan. I don't know if that's the first thing that you see when you go to the Refined Labs LinkedIn, but it's out there. So just curious, like what was the inspiration for making it public?
That was Jessica's baby. So I'm going to let her give you the rundown.
Definitely was. So it's ironic because I talked about the culture book when I interviewed here. So one of my biggest things about HR, people operations is like, I feel like a lot of things are outdated. So I am not a fan of handbooks. I think there's a place for them, but they're basically legal documents that tell you don't do this here. And I wanted to do a culture book because it's like, okay, well, what is the culture like here? What is the experience that you're going to get being here? And so when I started, literally, this was my project on day one, is to write this culture book. And so I went around asking everyone when I was, my first couple of weeks is, what is it you like here? Why do you want to be here? Why are you staying here? And then I wrote it out, and I wrote it out in a very rough format. And I wrote it how I talk. And I'm a Texan, so there's like the hell nah section. And like, I definitely wrote it how I wanted to write it. But then my team went in and basically edited it down. And then we did team meetings. So at our offsite, I asked people, tell me a word that describes Refined Labs. And we took all of those words and made a word cloud of it. And that's in the document. And then we had meetings with everyone to ask them, what is it you like working here? What could we do better? So we didn't want to just focus on like what's happening right now is the talent destination. How do we get to where we want to be? So we asked everyone, we hosted meetings where anyone could join if they wanted to and tell us what they thought we should put in the book. Now, mind you, when you do that, you're going to get a lot of opinions. So we had to then narrow it down and stay focused. But it took us about 3 months of me and my team, like weekly going through the book. What do we want to take out? What do we want to add? How could it be different? We had a group of people that the final draft, we let them see and said, does this resonate with you? Is this how it feels to be here? And it was a labor of love, a big labor of love, but it's something I'm so proud of and that we just put out there for everyone to see because we want you to know this is what it's really like if you want to be here in a fully distributed workforce. This is how it will feel for you. And so the book is actually really funny too. It's not all serious. It's definitely some fun stuff in there, and we wanted it to be that way.
Do you ever have conversations with candidates where they bring up the culture playbook?
All the time, every single time. They always
Really?
bring it up. Yes, it comes up in every single interview because we send it to them in the interview process. It's everywhere on the internet. If somebody really wants to research us, they can find it. But they always bring it up. And there are certain sections like the hell nah section that people think is hilarious. But they also love the sections of people telling about their experience. So I think we have maybe 6 or 7 inserts in there from employees saying this is what it feels like for them on their team. And we tried to get someone from every single team. So that those are a big hit as well, but they always bring it up. I actually think it's one of our biggest selling points right now when people are interviewing.
Yeah, and we're taking a page out of our marketing playbook, right? And
I was
bringing
gonna
it
say.
into talent acquisition. So we're giving them all the information that they want, so that they can consider if it's even worth their time going through an interview process with us, right? And it's also, I've been a part of organizations where I've witnessed the interview process is designed for the company. And I think it's really important that you think about what is that experience like for the candidate and the person. Interviewing is a two-way street, and it shouldn't be about either party convincing the other person to do something. It should be a conversation about, hey, is this the right fit for both sides? And if so, should we make this happen?
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. Uh, Almost like a discovery call, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So tell me about the hell nah list. Um, I feel like, a lot of times you'll go to somebody's website, you'll go to the value section, and it'll list off, the 3 or 4 values that are important to the company. But rarely do you see a list showing what the culture is not about. So I thought it was really interesting that y'all created the hell no list. So if you could just tell our audience what that is and why you
Yeah.
decided to create it.
So the list is like, I feel like we've all worked in places where it's like an underlying current of negativity and things that people don't like, but it's like the elephant in the room and no one will really talk about it. So you're in meetings and there's this one person talking over everyone and no one likes it, but no one will acknowledge it. So I thought, let's make a list of the behavior that we do not want to see here. So it's very clear, and if I come to you and say, hey, I saw this, you know what I'm talking about, and let's like talk it through. And so one of the things on there that's really like a funny one is like we say no keyboard gangsters. So don't say anything to someone via their email or their Slack that you would not say to their face. Because I feel like in a fully distributed workforce, sometimes people get the best of like, oh, I can just say whatever I want. And, I'm never going to see this person. No, that's still not kind. So that's one. And then we have another one that's like no office politicians. So don't try to politic around and get the answer that you want. So don't come to ask me a question and then go ask Megan and then we give you different answers and you're like, well, I don't know, like that's not the way, that's not part of our culture either. So I think the list is meant to be, part of it is a little bit like funny and like play on words, but also these are behaviors that we just will not accept. And if we see it, we're going to call it out. So I have been in situations where I'm in meetings and someone's overstepping or being a little bit aggressive, and I will private message them in that meeting and say, please calm down or please do something differently, and then have a conversation with them. So I also think it's part of being a leader where you're like calling people out in a respectful way as it's happening. I'm not waiting for a performance review. If something happens today, I'm going to talk to you about it today.
I think that the biggest mistake that people make in thinking about culture is they focus on all the things that they want to have happen, and then they don't correct the negative behavior or action that occurs. And that's when things can fester and start to get more negative and toxic. So, and culture is something that you always have to nurture and protect constantly. Your job is never done there. And so I think what Jessica did really masterfully in this book is we talked a lot about what we do care about, what our values are, what we expect of each other, but then alternatively, the behaviors that we will not tolerate. And everyone is really clear on that. And so sure, we have minor issues here and there that we address on the spot, as Jessica described, but I think part of protecting a culture is being really clear with what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and then backing that up if people push boundaries.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost eliminating any gray area or like room for interpretation to people on like what a value means, because they can see like, here's the value and here are the behaviors that are not accepted. Yeah, just provides a better roadmap for employees.
Yep.
So you mentioned a couple of times that you have a fully distributed workforce. Is this a decision that was made recently, or, when Refined Labs was created as a company, was this something that was always in mind?
So yeah, I got to give it to Chris Walker, visionary. He intended for the company to always operate fully remote when he founded the company in 2019, pre-pandemic, before remote work was cool. And so the primary driver was a couple of reasons for that decision. So number one, he had the opportunity in his career to work in a hybrid environment where sometimes he was remote and sometimes he was in the office. And he personally had the experience of how much more productive he was in a remote setting, and the benefits of that flexibility, right? So he personally had that experience. And then second, knowing, especially as we started to grow the company, that we wanted to get the most talented people, we realized how geography can be a massive constraint for talent, and unnecessarily so, especially in this day and age. And so I think it was a combination of his personal experience and wanting to not create artificial constraints as we grew the business on the types of people that we could bring into the company.
Yeah, I've definitely had a similar experience the past couple of years. So when I was working at Udacity, that was my first opportunity to be a remote employee. But I was like part of the 10% of employees at the company that were remote. So it always felt like uh, it's not that I didn't feel a part of the team, but it was just different, like when 90% of the company is going into the office and you're one of the few that's kind of just a face on a screen, it feels a little bit different. And then, coming to Humu, where obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, so everybody has been fully remote this whole time. Yeah, it's definitely just a different experience when everybody's like on a level playing field, and you know, nobody has like the benefit of being like the familiar face in the office or anything like that. And it forces everybody to adopt more equitable practices, like how they just, carry themselves every day during interaction. So I think it's awesome that Chris had the foresight that fully distributed was going to be the way to go.
Yeah, it has definitely helped with our recruitment strategies because if
Oh, I
we were
bet.
just going in one place, it would be very hard.
Yeah, and I just think of people like Sydney, who I had a chance to work with on your team in the past, and she moved to
Idaho.
Idaho. That's
Oh,
right, and
yeah.
that wouldn't have been possible had
Mhm.
everybody had to be in the office.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about talent attraction. I know one thing that is really important for your team is becoming a talent destination.
Mhm.
And I guess first of all, how many people have joined the Refine Labs team in the past couple of years? Like, what's the growth look like?
Yeah, I mean, we're almost at 80 people. And I would say like probably from 2019 to the summer of 2020, it was like kind of a slow build as the business was kind of getting established. But from like summer 2020, like basically in 18 months, we hired like 75 people with very minimal voluntary and involuntary attrition as well. And then we're kind of chatting before we hit record. We're hoping to hire over 100 people this year. So pretty accelerated growth, and recruiting and onboarding a lot of people all of the time.
Yeah.
So
My
going
team
from
is busy.
85 to 185.
Yeah, we'll be
Wow,
close to 200 by the end of the year.
it's exciting.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work ahead of you.
Exciting and scary.
And how have y'all been able to fill all of these roles, and how do you plan to fill these 100 roles that you plan on filling here in the next year?
I think from the very beginning, it's been a focus of mine to build our employer brand. And so, again, kind of taking a page from our marketing philosophy and strategy, how do we create demand for people that want to work at our company so that when we're opening up roles, people come to us and we can alleviate some of the outbound activity that typically is required for recruiting teams. So we still do outbound, not to say that we don't engage in those types of like sourcing and recruiting activities. But the goal is to really, number one, create a great place to work, to create word of mouth from our team, and then to create content and distribute that effectively to give people all the information that they need to opt into an interview process with us. So that's been the primary driving strategy. I will say we have a great external partner that does recruiting for us as well, which has been crucial to support the high growth in the team that we've had. So we've really deployed an employer branding strategy, external recruiting support, and have really invested in, basically Jessica as the VP of People was one of the first like senior leadership hires we made when we were like, okay, where do we need to invest in the business first? We're going to start with the people team. And then after that, more recently, we brought on a chief customer officer and a chief financial officer. But we made the explicit choice to invest in people leadership and a people team first because we knew how important that was.
So going back to how people find out about Refine Labs, just to paint a picture for everybody listening, what does the typical journey look like for somebody that is applying for a role?
Ooh, you want to take this one, Jess?
Yeah, I'm like, well, it's funny because it's like two different paths. So we have the people that have listened to Chris's podcast or like see our post on LinkedIn that reach out. And then the second path is us. We are like sourcing people left and right, and doing research and reaching out to them in particular. And then from there, depending on their role, we have like an intake process where they meet with the recruitment team and see, is this a good fit? And that's when they would see the culture book. So that's when they would see the culture playbook. We also have a document called why they should work here. So it gives them like a little bit about our benefits and what the culture is like and all of that stuff in addition to the culture playbook. So kind of like we're selling them on this is why you would want to be here. And a lot of that conversation is also about being fully distributed. So wherever you want to be, we have a couple people that are like nomadic, like they travel around. We don't know where they are. They're working. That's fine. So if that's your lifestyle and that's what you want to do, that's also okay with us. And then normally there's like a second round with the hiring manager. We try to do a lot of team interactive interviews. So there you might meet with a couple different people on the team. We want you to really understand what you're getting into, what's the team dynamic, whether that's on the demand team or the creative team. And then there's normally a final presentation where you're giving a presentation on, whether it's on the marketing team. And even on my team, I have them give a presentation so that I understand what's their philosophy on something. So we want to make sure, and this has come up in our employee engagement survey, 99% of the people here are behind our mission. They understand what we're doing. They understand why we're doing it this way. And that is so important that we kind of force that out in the interview process. Like, do you understand the mission and are you behind it? Do you understand our philosophy and why we're doing it this way? And so I think that's the biggest thing for the interview process. And also they're interviewing us as well. To Megan's point, it's a two-way street. So is this what you want? I think we have a lot of people, like I came from a huge organization. I used to work at GM, and it is a different world than being in a startup. Like, let's just be very clear.
Yes.
And so, that's part of the conversation is this what you want? It's not going to be a streamlined. It's great because it's not as much red tape, but is this what you want? And so we try to be very open and transparent about this is what it's like to work here. And if this is what you want, then we want you here. And if not, this might not be the best place. And that has come up. Some people think that they want to be fully remote and then it turns out they don't. They want to be out doing other things. So being really mindful in how we're interviewing people and making sure that they have the information to make an informed decision, because if this is not going to be right for them long term, then let's not push it.
The one thing I want to add too is like very much one of our values is like play the long game. And so if there are any candidates that ultimately are not going to make it to an offer for whatever reason, we have been pretty good and consistent about providing specific feedback behind the decision. And in many cases, even inviting certain people to reapply in the future once they've been able to gain more experience in a particular area or demonstrate progress, on a particular skill that we identified wasn't kind of quite where we need it to be. And so I think even with people that, we don't move forward with, we still get positive feedback from them on what the experience was like. And then they have clarity on, why the offer wasn't made, and we kind of leave the door open for the future. And so I think that's another really important thing to consider is Like you never know when you're going to cross paths with someone again. And so whether you are moving to offer or not, you want to make sure that the experience is good for both of those types of candidates.
Yeah. And we've gotten really positive feedback from that. Chris actually just sent out a message he got on LinkedIn that was just like, hey, just wanted you to know that your recruiting team sent me a message back and told me why I didn't get it. And let's be honest, that does take time for my team to, let every person know like why it didn't work out and this is what you could do better. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth the time.
Yeah, that's so much better than just
Mm-hmm.
basically being ghosted or just being told, "Hey, we're not going to move to the next step," and sort of wondering like, what is it that I'm missing, or why isn't this a good fit? So I think that's awesome that y'all are doing that. Uh, and also going back to how you source your candidates, I'm very curious. So I imagine you have one bucket where it's purely inbound. It's people who are following somebody on your team, whether it's Chris or Megan or you or anybody else on the team, and they're 100% behind the mission of Refined Labs and what y'all are trying to do. And they see a job posting, they apply right away, and then on the other side, I'm sure it sounds like y'all are doing some outbound. I'm curious, like if you compare the two funnels, like what's the uh
The inbound funnel
Yeah, I was like,
performs
of
better.
course. We're like smiling because we're like, of course inbound is better.
Our inbound
the
funnel,
quality is a lot better?
the
Yeah.
quality is a lot better. Outbound, most people will take a call with Chris Walker, with me, with someone on our team, like, oh, I'm interested in talking to Refine Labs. Like they're a cool company. So we often will get the first call with outbound, but our conversion rates on inbound are dramatically higher, which is why we're continuing to invest in actually bringing on a director of employer branding to like take that to the next level. And think about other ways that we can leverage different marketing tactics, including like paid advertising on LinkedIn to drive specific content to specific people, to kind of drive that inbound demand versus the outbound motion.
Yeah, and I guess that leads me to my follow-up question. I'm sure that a lot of people leaders out there are like, how can we do this at our company? So, do you have any advice for those people leaders who maybe get it and they know that this would be a far better approach to sourcing candidates, but don't even know where to start? Um, you know, for you, making marketing background, like you get it, and everybody at Refined Labs, I mean, it's a marketing company, but what advice would you have for those people leaders out there?
Well, it's funny. I actually don't have a traditional marketing background. I'm a marketer by association, believe it or not. My background is really in customer success and company building. And so I joke that I got my marketing chops by building the employer brand of the company because it was my first foray into really dedicating efforts there. And so what I'll tell you is, I teamed up with Chris in the summer of 2020. This was clear to me that this was a challenge in the business. And so this is something that I've been working on for like a year and a half. And it took a while. I didn't really start to see the benefits of all of the effort that we were putting into this until 6 to 9 months after I started doing it. And so the way you need to think about it is, just like if you're a marketer and you want to get to know your customer and put yourself in your customer's shoes, as a people leader, you need to put yourself in your ideal candidate's shoes. If you were them, what would you want to experience? What information would you want to know about? How can you create and curate content on those topics and get that information in front of people where they already spend their time? You don't have to overcomplicate it. Yeah, we have some cool videos and this and that, but you could simply post text information on LinkedIn. You can rethink your job description. We get all sorts of compliments on our job descriptions, but we write them so it's in plain English. You can understand what you're going to do in the job, right? Publishing the culture playbook. So all you need to think about is put yourself in your ideal candidate's shoes and create and distribute content and information that they care about and want to know about. And if you do that effectively, the right people will come to you when they want to have an interview with you for an open role.
Yeah, and I think to play off of what Megan just said, like the old way is broken. Like I've been in HR, people operations for 10 years, and the old way of I'm just going to put this out here and they'll come to me and they just better be happy I select them. Those days are over. Like look at the great resignation. Like unemployment right now is so low because people are deciding, and by the most people when they are looking for a job have multiple offers. So it's not like you're just convincing them to come to you. You're also convincing them why they should not go to someone else. And I think just making sure that like we're quote unquote marketing to why they should be here and what we can give them. Even with our career pathing model, we literally have created career paths for every single department. So when you start, this is where you could go and this is what it would look like to stay here. And that's part of recruiting as well. So not just the role that you're coming into, how are you going to grow? What's it going to look like, a couple of years from now? So it's a much bigger picture, I think. And the old way is broken. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So two recent guests that we've had are both former marketers. So we had Darren Murph from GitLab, who's their head of remote, and then Katie Burke, the chief people officer at HubSpot. And I think that they're both so good at what you guys are both describing. I think about GitLab, they have their remote playbook, and it's like a 20-page guide on their website that anybody can go find. And then Katie, I think HubSpot just does an amazing job of, whether it's her posting on social media or other people at the company, but constantly like shining a light on their culture and, highlighting different people.
Yeah.
And then just going back to something she mentioned in the last episode. So to better understand their customer, in this case, the candidates that they're trying to source, they had 4 panels about the future of work for their company. And they invited recent college graduates, more senior candidates, as well as people that work in career services at universities, to hear from them on what people are looking for. And then they had like experts come in and talk, and then had like a Q&A. And then from that, rather than saying, I think this is what people are looking for, it was more so, here's what we're hearing from the market or candidates, and this is what we should do. Like, these should be our next step. This is what our future of work strategy should look like. So yeah, I feel like there's some marketers that are converting into, people ops people that are doing some great work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Well,
think it's full circle. Like I think the biggest thing is to like when we have people start here, we also check in with them. Why did you decide to come here? Like we ask them almost like a stay interview. Why are you here? What was it that made you want to join us? And then we use that data to get other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that content, we'll record it. But
All
I
about
think
the content.
the also the other underlying thing here that I think is worth saying, I know is going to be obvious to both of you, and probably a lot of your listeners, is like individuals, CEOs don't build companies. People build companies. Teams build companies. Like none of this works if you don't have the right people in the right spot, at your company. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it is shocking to me that people don't take this more seriously, given how fundamental your team is to everything that you're doing as a company. It boggles my mind. I know you guys get it, but just to say that out loud.
Yeah, totally. So I want to talk about onboarding. I've seen some of the content I've seen some of the content that your team has put out around onboarding. So I wanted to spend some time talking about it. So I guess first off, like, why the emphasis on onboarding?
I think it's the most important part. Once somebody signs the offer letter, you do not have them. I think that is an optical illusion. Like people are still getting offer letters after they signed your offer letter. So I have seen this in my past organizations where it's like, oh, we got them, they're starting. And then at the last minute, they're like, you know what? I went with another offer. So the moment they sign that offer letter, onboarding has started. So we literally, from that day, we're reaching out to them. We have a whole email system that my team sends out that sends them like literally we have a playlist. Like here's our playlist. Like before you even join, here's the music we like. Go ahead and add your music on here. Like it's simple things like that to start touching base with them from the moment they sign that offer letter. And then with the probably within the first week before they start, they will get an outline. So like a whole 2 weeks of this is what your onboarding will be, who is here you're meeting with, kind of links to their, their LinkedIn and, get to know them a little bit better. And it's just meant to be 100% high touch point. So we like think about it like when you start somewhere new, it's a big change in your life. We are going to hold your hand, and I truly believe hold your hand throughout those first couple of months to make sure you know who to talk to and what you need. And then we don't stop onboarding, and I say like 90 days. We're still checking in. We're still making sure, do you need anything? Obviously, we're not going to see you walking quote unquote down the hallway, so we have to be intentional about it. So my team literally has like calendar invites. Check in with this person. Is this person okay? Does this person need to meet with someone else? But it's very high touch point. And a lot of it is around team engagement. So like I said, like the playlist, that's something that's so simple that people love. Like when they sign the offer letter, we're like, here's our collaborative playlist. They're like, what? They're like, everybody loves music. Like, of course we would send you our playlist. And we also do team spotlights. So it's literally a document where you spotlight what it is about you. So we ask questions about, your family, or what do you want? What did you want to be when you were little? Like, what kind of candy do you like? And we send it out to the team, and that's like a source of conversation as well. But that starts literally the day you sign the offer letter.
And I think one for my customer success background, when you're thinking about onboarding a customer, like poor onboarding is the leading cause of churn. It's your first impression. If you're not set up correctly from the beginning, things can go downhill. And the same thing applies to new team members. I think the other thing too is like right now in the world is the pandemic, everything that's been going on. There's just a lot of anxiety and not being in person. And so there's an emphasis, and like all of the specific examples that Jessica just walked us through right now, like those are all designed to make people feel welcome and that they belong and that they have a place here and that they are supported and that we care about them. All those little things like really matter. Treat your people as people, right? Not as like human resources.
Yeah, that's great. No, yeah, it's scary leaving a job for a new job. And I don't know, there's not any more comforting feeling than feeling supported and feeling like you belong in those first 15, 30, 60, 90 days. And as Jessica, you were walking through the pre-onboarding and onboarding experience, it is eerily similar to the experience that I had at Humu. And I was so blown away by our onboarding that after like day, 15, 30, I shouted out the two people that were running the onboarding program because it was so buttoned up. And I just felt like I knew so much about the company within the first, 2-3 weeks. Like one thing that they had set up, they set up one-on-ones for you to meet people from different teams, in addition to like group sessions where they'd bring all the new hires to talk to somebody from the product team or somebody from the sales team or somebody or CEO, like talking about long-term vision. So it's like within that first 30 days, I knew what our company was about, what the long-term product strategy was, how we sell our product, how we're marketing it. And it was just so helpful for me as a new hire. So I agree. Onboarding is crucial. And if you don't get it wrong, then people might feel lost or might have that buyer's remorse. Like, did I just join a company that I might not, maybe I shouldn't have? I don't know. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing some good work there.
I think that's a real thing because most people decide if they're going to leave in the first 90 days. So that's also like another fun fact. Like that first 90 days, if someone doesn't like it, that's when they're deciding I'm going to leave now. And now it might take them time to find another job, but they're deciding that in the first 90 days. And so for us, like their first day, they're talking to Chris, they're talking to our CEO, like they have access to everyone. And actually, I think it's really funny because I make a point to like check in with people, and I randomly call people. And one new hire was like, "Oh my God, like the VP of people is calling me," and I'm literally just like, "How are you? How's your day?" You know.
That's
So
awesome.
we go above and beyond, but I think it makes a big difference.
Okay. So what do you all think most companies get wrong with onboarding? Like, where does it go wrong?
Everything.
Explain.
Yeah, I'm like, that's my honest assessment. No, I think a lot of companies just make it about the company. So they just make it, this is everything you need to know about us. And like they kind of try to fast track you with information, and you feel like you're drinking from a water hose. And you're not really absorbing that in the first week because you're trying to just figure out like, what do I need to do and how do I cut this computer on? And so I think the biggest mistake is trying to fast track everything. So they literally front load you with information. And then by week 2 and 3, they expect you should be up to speed. And that's just false. That's not true. It doesn't work that way. So I think the way we do it, where it's, we're not slow rolling it. We definitely need you to be up to speed. But that first 2 weeks, it's really you getting to know people. And this is what we here and this is why. So the why behind the what is the biggest thing I think people miss in onboarding.
Yeah.
I was just going to add one thing, and we kind of touched on this earlier in the episode, but it's like being really thoughtful about how you're making people feel in the first few weeks, and making decisions and optimizing schedules and sequencing and giving people breaks and free time, no death by PowerPoint. Being really thoughtful again about what is the team member's experience and how can I optimize that. I think Jessica said it best at the beginning, like people being very company centric and thinking, what do I need out of this person versus like, how do I want to make this person feel, so that they, by the end of their first couple of weeks, they're like, I'm so glad I came to this company.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome.
One thing I'm thinking about, so when we bring on a new hire, the first thing that we tell them is to reduce any like anxiety that they may have about starting a new role, is we brought you here for a reason, because we think that you're smart, you're capable, you are a culture add to our company. So for these first few weeks, don't worry about jumping right into a project. Take your time. We're not going to fire you if you don't get like, up and running within 3 or 4 weeks. We brought you here for a reason. And just focus on learning about the business and meeting people. And I don't know, it's just a good feeling to have when you're starting a new company and not having that anxiety of like, oh, I got to perform right away. Because I think that everybody feels that just a little bit.
And we kind of call that out. Like even in our job descriptions, we talk about imposter syndrome. So we even say like, even if you feel like imposter syndrome or you don't know if you can do this, like we're here to support you. And we even on the job description, it says, even if you feel imposter syndrome reading this, please still apply. And we bring that up in onboarding, like you're going to feel overwhelmed at first and we're here to support you. And we check in so that, I do regular check-ins where I'm literally just saying, how are you and how can I support you?
Love it. Okay. So we just started asking this question to all of our guests, and I think it's a really fun question. If you could go back in time and talk to 22-year-old Jessica and Megan, what career-related advice would you give yourselves and why?
I think what I would tell my younger self is there are certain things that you should sacrifice for your career, and there are certain things you should not sacrifice for your career. And so this is my hard learned lessons, but you should never sacrifice your integrity, your values, or your physical and mental health. So if your current job is threatening any of those, find a way to get out. But you should be open-minded to sacrificing title, salary, and some of these other things to optimize for learning, especially early in your career. It's not a race to the top. It doesn't, I thought that getting to the C-suite, I would feel victorious, and I didn't really feel much of anything when I got promoted to COO. So I would I would want to tell myself all the lessons I learned the hard way of what actually matters and what doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that one, Megan. Well, this question is funny because it reminds me of the Taylor Swift song 22. So every time when I see this, I think I like sing that song in my head. But 22-year-old Jessica, I was living in Australia at the time. And so I would tell myself to like just take every chance you get. So I've always been a risk taker, and I actually think the older I get, the more risk averse I get. But like at 22, I was willing to do anything. I moved to Australia, didn't know a single soul. But at the time, I actually ironically wanted to go to medical school. Now I look back and I had an epiphany that I didn't want to do that anymore. But at the time, that felt like my life was crashing down. Like at 22, I was finishing my master's degree and deciding I had been on this path to go to medical school and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I would really go back and tell myself, you're going to figure it out. Like, you don't have to, just because that's what you wanted to do or what you've been told that you should do, doesn't mean that's what you really want. And you can figure it out. It's a new day. So I would probably give myself a pep talk, because at 22, I was like, I thought my world was ending. Like, if I don't want to go to medical school, what am I going to do with my life? Like, is there anything else to do? So yeah, I would give myself a pep talk. Like, you're going to figure it out.
Love it. At 22, I had no idea what was next for me. So sounds like you had it a little more figured out than I did.
A little bit overachiever, just a little bit.
Cool. Well, just a couple more questions and we can close it out. Who should we bring onto the show next? Are there any people that you're following on LinkedIn that you really admire, or maybe you're listening to their podcast? Anyone that you think that our audience would benefit learning from?
You should get Nate Guggia and James Hornick on from Before You Apply and Hirewell. They're awesome, and they're doing a ton of great work in the employer branding space. And Hirewell is our external recruiting partner who are great at what they do.
Yeah. So my two are in the people space. So one, I don't know if you've had, I know you guys had Barbie Brewer, who I know, on the podcast, which was awesome. But Barbie Winterbottom is also like an HR expert. She has been a chief people officer at multiple places and is amazing. And I think she does her own like LinkedIn live shows. And then the other person is Clinton Bradley. They do a lot of stuff in like the DE&I space and inclusion and equity. I think both of those would be great for the show.
Well, we need another Barbie on this show, so love that recommendation. Okay, so we close out every show with a one word or phrase close, where we all respond with a word or phrase from the episode that we want to close with. Could be anything. Who wants to go first?
My favorite word when people ask me for one word is grit.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll say, or no, sorry, you go, Jessica.
I would say transparency. I think that came up a lot today. I think our culture, Refine Labs 100% is transparent. And I think that's the biggest thing for us.
I'll say is safe haven, because Refine Labs is a safe haven for B2B marketers. And you can use it as a video clip.
Is that two words? You're the host. You can use two words.
I always cheat on this. Well, awesome. Thank you both so much for joining the show. I think this is the first time that we've had two people from the same company on the show at the same time. So definitely a bit experimental for us. And I thought it was a lot of fun.
I thought we did great.
Y'all did awesome. And by the way, we've actually had Chris on the show before too. It was months and months ago, but yeah, y'all are now added to the list of multiple guests from one company. So congrats.
Thanks for having us, Daniel.
Yeah.
All righty. Talk to y'all later.